What's going on, my PT peeps, my Walking Dead family, my fighters? I'm One Eye Bright, also known as PT. Don't know if I'm winking or blinking, but I'm definitely thinking about Fear the Walking Dead Season 7, Episode 3, Cindy Hawkins review, recap, breakdown, analysis, just discussion. So obviously spoiler warning for all things Fear the Walking Dead and the Walking Dead universe. But overall, it's a decent episode. I want to say it's the better of the 3 episodes. The first 3 episodes have been a little lackluster in my opinion. Still good, but we'll have to see where it's going. But before we get to the breakdown, guys, hit that subscribe button, like, share, subscribe, support the PT channel any way that you can. Want to give a shout out to all my subscribers, patrons, members, everybody that supports the channel. We truly appreciate it, and thank you. Now it's the John Dorie Sr. focused episode. John and June, a little bit of Strand, a little bit of Morgan, but it's mainly John Dorie's story. Now we see them in the bunker. We see so many days have passed. We see the pistols, pretty cool stuff, but they've been here for 25 days when it starts. They go on more and more and more. And June was writing these days till opening, and we find out later on that she made up the numbers because she didn't want to leave the bunker because she misses John, and she just doesn't want to go into the crazy world that's out there. But we can see they have the game of life that they play a couple of times, and they have a bunch of different stuff to survive there for, I'm guessing, years, right? They got food, they got plates, they got medical supplies, they got everything they need to survive. Even though the bunker is not doing so well, they have a radio that John Dorie Sr. tries to reach people out there, and he does. But ultimately we see that our group, John Dorie Sr. and June, are living in the bunker for so many days, and they show you the routine where they make coffee, they listen to music, they have breakfast, they talk, and then good night. You see it over and over and over. We find out that Senior, John Dorie Sr., I'll just call him Senior from now on, he's not doing so well. He ends up going through alcohol withdrawals. The bunker is failing. It's not really doing so well. You see the joints, dirt's getting in, and it actually collapses and fails. We see the mamas and the papas. We see a red logo right there. There's a subtle hint at red several times around Senior, but like I said, June has a routine, John has a routine, and the bunker's only so big, but they're making it work. And I have to say, there could be worse places to live, even though they end up leaving the bunker at the end of the episode. We'll talk about that at the end. But ultimately, they're there bonding, and Senior says to June that I know I'm not the John that you wanted to spend all this time with. And it's kind of sad because he's probably right, but June says, I'm happy, I'm totally happy where we are. But ultimately we see more days and more days go by. And again, June made up these numbers from a book that she was reading about, post-apocalyptic fallout, but she makes up the numbers, we find out later on. But again, good night. See the red around Senior? It's a subtle little hint that I think he dies this season. But again, we'll have to see. Keith Carradine, I have to say, is probably the best addition in a long time to this show. He is very great. I love his acting. I believe him. But again, more dirt is coming on Senior when he's sleeping, and it's got to be gross. Is it radioactive dirt? I don't know. But there's shakes and quakes, and then this shelf gets knocked over with the number 12 above it. So does Senior die in the 12th episode of the season? Only time will tell. But we see a piece of the drywall is exposed. Senior knocks through the drywall, and they find this. This is Teddy's embalming station where he killed a bunch of women and embalmed them, and it was probably the first stages of when he did this, or he had to adapt and change on the fly, which is kind of clever but also gross. Ultimately, Senior says that he never found all the victims. There's still one victim, Cindy Hawkins. That's what the episode is titled. For that reason, we see June is working on suits. She's patching up the suits with tape and glue, and they end up using them later on. Senior is impacted by the fact that he found the embalming lab station thing, and he can't get over the fact that Cindy Hawkins is still out there somewhere, and he never found the body. He finds some wood to kind of patch up the hole to block it in, but it's really weighing on him. He can't get past the fact that Cindy Hawkins is out there somewhere, and that's a good part of the episode, or I should say a good amount of the focus in the episode, which I'm okay with because it does focus on Senior's mindset, and he's having a tough time dealing with it. It's probably like, I wish I never knew this existed, but what are the odds there, right? So he takes the boards and patches up the hole, and then he goes later on and rips down all of his construction. But then he hears voices. He hears a woman call out to him, and he's like, June, but June doesn't wake up. She kind of rolls over. John's like, what do I do? So he gets the suits, well, a suit, and then he goes up the ladder and goes up to see the fallout. So he actually leaves the bunker for the first time. I would assume that's letting all the fallout and the air down there. So, but either way, again, we have to look past that. So he goes up, and the visibility is terrible in those goggles. It's pretty cool to see what he's actually seeing in this view. So he goes up and he looks around. And I have to say, the suit that June has made looks pretty good. It's not great, but it's pretty good. And I love this viewpoint. We see it in Senior and also Morgan later on. And we also see that Senior is sweating because it would be hot in those things, that's for sure. But as he's looking around, he finds the two bodies of Teddy and Dakota. Now, Teddy's body is skin and bones, and he's not a walker. You see something crawling out of his eye socket, but you see the glasses. And we know it's Teddy because they highlight that right there. So they're like, hey, remember this guy? It was him right here. But as Senior's walking around, he picks up the knife. And it's the same knife that basically killed John, because John, well, Jr. found it. You see the knife with the handle. So this is Dakota right here. How did Dakota's body not get blown away and get vaporized? Like, how is she a walker? To me, it doesn't make sense, but we have to look past it for the story's sake. So Senior stabs Dakota with the knife. Kind of what goes around comes around, we see with the knife, right? And then as Senior's walking around, he sees this woman and he thinks it's Cindy Hawkins. And it's Cindy Hawkins' character, but it's a walker. June comes up, takes out the walker that ends up scratching the suit that Senior was wearing. And that's the walker. It's not Cindy Hawkins, because Cindy Hawkins, it was killed 40 years ago. So we know that Senior is hallucinating. They go back down. June patches up Senior. They argue, they fight. We see that Senior was asking about the hooch, the alcohol. He's going through withdrawals. He's been drinking more and more and more. And since the bottles of alcohol broke with the quake and the shake and everything, it's just not going well. John turns on the radio and we hear stuff outside. There's actually 3 people outside. Senior goes into the embalming station again, or the lab, whatever you want to call it. And again, he's hallucinating this. Cindy Hawkins is not on the table, but Senior sees this and he's freaking out. Again, he's not doing well. He's sweating. He's got the shakes. He's hallucinating. So like I said before, he built this all up with the sheet and the boards, and now he's ripping it down, and he's like, I gotta find out the answers. I gotta do this. I gotta do that. I gotta get this. My mind is going. I gotta keep working on something, because it's got to be bored down there. You see the needle out of his arm. June sedates him as they're arguing. The supports fall down, knock June and Senior out. Senior wakes up. Cindy Hawkins again is not really there. It's in Senior's mind. I guess he's having Senior moments. That's a joke. But he goes into the embalming station, sees the map, and he's like, okay, if I go here, I'm going to look for the body here. We never found the body. And he's talking to Cindy, who's not really there. Remember, it's a hallucination. And he's like, well, I don't know. What happened? I don't know where I was taken. He finds the box again with all the different missing people in it. Search continues for missing waitress. That's Cindy Hawkins, obviously. June wakes up. Senior says, I have to go find the Cindy Hawkins' body. I need to make a promise that I wouldn't let, her not be found. June says, don't go out there. I don't know what it's going to be like out there. We don't know what it's like. And then she spills the beans that she made up the numbers because she doesn't want to go out there. Cindy Hawkins is like, I knew it, right? But it's in John Dory's mind. She's not actually there. For me, it's got like Beetlejuice vibes, but Senior puts on a suit and is like, I'm going to do this and I'll be back. You stay where you're going to be, because June's leg is trapped under the support beam. Senior goes up, gets the map, looks at it, says, okay, I'm going to go here. It's wishful thinking that he could just walk there and find the body, but he doesn't even make it very far at all. Again, more red on this map. Just to me, it's highlighting that Senior's not going to make it. Senior's like stumbling and bumbling around. We see the bodies of, I'm guessing, Teddy and Dakota, or maybe other bodies. But June isn't going anywhere. She's stuck underneath the support beam. She's really there until Senior comes back and saves her. There's the 3 people that were banging on the outside to get in. I'm guessing there's a different entrance. It's not really explained, but Senior comes around and sees the 3 people trying to get in to get June, and one of them actually gets inside. Cindy Hawkins like, she'll be fine. You can go. You can find me and come back, and they still won't get in. But there's a gun battle. Senior takes out 2 of the gunmen. It's pretty cool to see their outfits with the breathing apparatus. It's very post-apocalyptic. Again, it's a pretty good gun battle. It's clearly a set where they're at that they made this. But either way, it's a pretty cool sequence here. Senior takes out one of the gunmen, and Cindy Hawkins like is talking smack to him. It's pretty funny. Like, you can't hit them. And he's got the shakes in his hand from the alcohol withdrawals, but he's like, don't give me something to prove. And then as this guy's reloading, boom, Senior takes him out. And it's pretty cool. Look at the outfit. Look at the breathing apparatus. It's a welding mask. That's modified, I'm guessing. But it's pretty cool to see this. They've done really good with the post-apocalyptic Fallout dystopian world here. But Senior shoots him in the chest right there, you can see. So Senior takes out 2 of them. One of the guys jumps down into the bunker. Senior falls, and he talks to Cindy Hawkins again. So there's more dialogue with Cindy Hawkins and Senior, and they talk. And either way, the guy gets down into the bunker, and really the bunker can't be that big, so it takes him some time to find June for some reason. Even though June is stuck right here, she kind of hides a little bit, but it's made for the drama. As Senior is up on the surface still, he sees these 5. There's only 4 in this picture, but there's one more in the middle. There's 5 women that were killed by Teddy, and Senior snaps out of it and realizes they're walkers. So he's starting to get his mojo back, his mindset back. And you can see the 70s or 60s, 70s clothes. You can see the older dated clothes, so it's a nice little touch. But they're walkers. Senior picks up the knife that he killed Dakota with and then kills the walkers easily and then gets back into the bunker. But it's interesting that it's the same knife that caused all the problems for Dakota and Junior. And then back to the bunker, we see June is hiding. The guy finally finds June. Like, June is stuck in this place, but it's funny that the guy is all dramatic, and it's pretty cool stuff with the breathing apparatus, and again, probably another welding helmet, and it just looks really great. He points the gun at June, and it's real dramatic, like, oh, is it gonna happen? What's gonna happen? And we know that June's gonna be safe because June's pretty essential to the story right now. Don't know who's gonna die this season, but I personally think Senior's gonna die. But this guy, real dramatic. Sequence again, gone. Senior saves the day, comes and helps June get up, and as he's moving the support beam from June that's there, you look to the right, we see the boards all the way to the right. So Senior is moving this support beam, and as he does, we find an arm in there. It is magically Cindy Hawkins' body. She was there the whole time. So luckily it's there, done, and Senior is okay now because he finds the body, puts the necklace, a C necklace that he found there that he knew was hers. He puts it on his bed, and you're like, oh, that's pretty gross, right? You can't use that bed, and they're not going to use the bed anymore anyway because they leave the bunker. But before they put on the suits, get their supplies, talk about it, is this the right thing to do? I don't know. Should we do it? Should we stay? I don't know either way, but they decide to leave, and as they're walking towards the ladder, more dirt, debris, everything comes down, and they pass out and get knocked out. Then they wake up, and magically they're not in the bunker anymore as we get a close-up of Senior's face, and they're in this safe, great, clean place. Senior's like, what's going on here? How long have I been asleep? What is this place? June kind of explains things a little bit, but it's magic that Senior wakes up like that, and June's like, there's a knock at the door, and it's Strand, and he wanted to come into the room as soon as Senior wakes up, and it just happened so quickly. But Strand talks to Senior and June, and Strand's okay with them staying, but Senior's like, we're not gonna help you. We're not gonna stay here for what you did at the sub with Morgan, which is good, right? How could you just trust Strand? And I think the John Dory characters are great for the story of Fear the Walking Dead. Some of the best in my opinion. Strand offers Senior some alcohol that he turns down. Strand leaves the room. Senior and June look out the window, and June says, well, it's going to be harder for us to leave because this is pretty bad CGI in my opinion, but it's like a 2-second shot, so they probably weren't going to have the budget for walkers. Then we go to the bunker, well, around the bunker, and we see one of the people that Senior took out is now a walker, and it's Morgan. But previously Senior was on the radio sending out messages, so I guess Morgan heard them. That's how Strand heard them, and Strand's patrols came and saved Senior and June. That's how they knew where to go. But as Morgan is digging out the hole, like, John, June, he's trying to like dig out the hole and talk to them through the radio. Strand hears Morgan over the radio, and he says, they're not there, they're with me. So now we have the whole showdown with Strand and Morgan on the radio, and it's not very long, it's like 30 seconds, and they're really building it up. And the Walking Dead universe has good build up, but the payoff is not that great in my opinion throughout the series, not just Fear the Walking Dead, but the Walking Dead as a whole. We really need to have Strand and Morgan have a showdown, with Strand being taken out in my opinion. But Morgan says, you can help people. If I hear that you're not helping people, you're hurting people, I'm gonna do what you did on the sub, but I'm not gonna miss. Strand actually interrupts Morgan on the radio. I don't think you can do that if you have the call button down, but again, we have to look past that. But the showdown between these two is happening. Strand even says, bring it on, because he's got a tower, a fortress there. And the episode ends with Morgan walking away from the bunker. He repaired his halberd, axe, battle axe, spear, really hybrid weapon, and that's how the episode ends. So overall, it's a John Dory Sr. episode with a little bit of Morgan, a little bit of Strand, June, John, the story of Cindy Hawkins. But hopefully Senior can put the Teddy stuff behind him and we can move forward. So again, we're having a big showdown potentially with Strand and Morgan, and if it's not a big payoff, the build up, and if the payoff isn't there, the building up is great, but it really needs to be executed very well in my opinion. We'll have to see how it goes down. But overall, season 7 episode 3 is a decent episode. All the episodes have been pretty decent in my opinion, but hopefully we'll see where it goes later on this season. Let me know your thoughts, post your comments below, stay safe, and as always, tell them Daryl.